Let's talk about Seer, the most recent addition to the Apex Legends and a former center of controversy who received some heavy nerfs shortly after release. Seer's ability to one-sidedly gain information on enemy positioning as well as a lengthy reveal time still makes him a strong character to play. Seer's passive is a special indicator on the crosshair that shows enemy direction within 75 meters. You can also aim down sights even with no weapons to trigger the passive. This gives a lot of information during firefights, but it can also obscure vision and overload you. The indicator disappears when you fire, but you can stop firing and it flashes back up towards the end to get a direction of the next enemy. Note in the clip how I was able to use Seer's passive as well as my teammate pings to be aggressive in a 1 vs 2 situation. Thanks to Seer's passive, I was able to gain a visual assistance in addition to auditory signals that I already relied on. However, as mentioned before, the passive's short detection range as well as its limited directional coverage means that you cannot always be relying on your passive. The passive only detects the cone-shaped area in front of you, which is displayed on your minimap. The minimap's cone is white if you don't detect anything, and yellow if you do. Perhaps the best quality of Seer's passive is that you can detect enemies one-sidedly. Enemies don't get any visual or auditory cues that they have been detected on the Heartseeker. This lets you ambush teams rotating in, clean out stragglers after a firefight with minimal risk, check whether you are safe after you finish wiping a squad, and get information about buildings and areas before you can go into them. This is very useful in final rings because you can keep tabs on enemies trying to sneak around you constantly. And it's also great early on to make sure your immediate vicinity is clear. But again, it is only 75 meters, so it's not foolproof. The passive is especially useful for Seer because he attracts third parties like a magnet. Unfortunately, because Seer doesn't have any physical ways to stall enemies, sometimes you fall helplessly to yet another third party that jumps on your weakened squad. Because of this, I actually actively avoided playing King's Canyon during the 50 games after a while due to the constant gathering of 3 or more squads in one location, which also served to overload my passive and throw off my aim instead of helping me out. Seer's Tactical is a cylindrical blast of microdrones which interrupts and reveals enemies. The cylinder is 75 meters long with a radius of 4 meters. The Tactical goes through walls, which lets the immobile Seer perform his reconnaissance from a safe place. The amount of information you and your squad mates get is amazing, but the obvious drawback is that you have to hit it. The indicators of your passive give a general direction, but thanks to the nerf, the 4 meter radius is easily steppable if you throw it out willy-nilly. I found a lot of success using the Tactical when people were shooting, on top of railways where people inevitably line up, and final rings without much mobility. In addition, the Tactical disrupts and blocks the enemy from doing whatever action they were doing previously. If you were using a shield cell or reviving your teammate, your action would get cancelled by the Tactical. In advantageous situations, this makes Seer downright oppressive, especially if you already have the information on enemy position. In early game hot drops, this can be pretty useful. Not so much in frantic melee combat, but having a good idea of where at least one team was came in incredibly handy. There's a delay to you using your Tactical and it going out, which means that you have to adjust your aim until it actually comes out. Also important to note is that you don't always hit everyone on the squad, so becoming aggressive for 1 or 2 detected legends can easily go south for your squad. Seer's ultimate is a container of microdrones that creates a dome which tracks enemies moving rapidly or firing in real time. You can throw the container up to 45 meters on flat ground. Before you throw the container, you move normally with it out and can cancel it with your weapons as well. Once you throw it, your ultimate has a radius of around 35 meters, meaning you can theoretically make it reach around 75 to 80 meters from where you are, which is about the range of your passive and Tactical.
Now, to the heart of the matter.
Your ultimate can be used both offensively and defensively. Personally, I enjoyed using it defensively in solo queue because I couldn't rely on my teammates to work with the intel I gave them all the time. But Seer can throw it reasonably far, and the ultimate covers a lot of distance, so it's definitely good for hunting down escaping enemies. Defensively, you can use it to buffer away wary enemies from pushing your squad when pressured, or use it to stop any flanking enemies in their tracks. The container itself has HP and can be shot down, so you do want to hide it away in a safe spot. It is a great ability that rounds off Seer's kit because stationary enemies can be hit by our Tactical, but when they move quickly to dodge it, they are detected by your ultimate. The low cooldown of 2 minutes means that you can use it without reservation a lot of the time, but the ultimate has a big visual cue and the trade-off is the increased risk of getting third party. Because you don't have any mobility skills, it's pretty important to keep a close distance with teammates and make sure they are on the same page as you, as if they are overstepping, you can't go and cover them.
Watch out, still full squad.
In this clip, I down one enemy, but I am too far to assist our Pathfinder, who goes in alone, gets isolated, and killed. Of course, this works both ways. If you make a reckless decision yourself, pushing in deep without your teammates, there's a high chance that you'll pay for that mistake with your life. The moment I jumped over this balcony, I knew I was in deep trouble. If I was playing Wraith, I could have phased out to safety, but as Seer, I could only die. I found the best success with Seer when I was managing engagement and rotation paths for my squad. Based on the amazing amount of information that you can have at all times, you can orchestrate dreamlike third parties and engagements. In those cases, Seer truly feels like a maestro of combat, artfully executing third-party engagements and focus fire. But without coordination, Seer struggles to follow his team and only creates confusion, instead drawing unwelcome guests to take advantage of the chaos themselves. This was a newbie's analysis of Seer after playing 50 games in a row with him. Thanks for watching!